How did I get into the business? It was a complete fluke. The specific answer is I bounced in and out of a couple of different jobs after college. Like so many 20-somethings, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I answered an ad in the Babson College job directory where they were looking for help on a corporate service account. And this was Trammell Crow Company, and they represented Mobil Oil nationally. So I got into the business looking for gas station sites, renegotiating their deals, all that kind of thing. My boss was taken off the account about 6 months after I started. So 6 months worth of real estate experience, and all of a sudden I was responsible for all of Mobil Oil's real estate holdings in New England. And it was a baptism of fire, and I learned every street corner in 6 states based off of where gas stations are located. Snowballed from there over the years. When I was 19 or 20, what I wanted to do and would I ever be doing this for a career choice, I would have told you were nuts. Where I went to school at the University of Wisconsin, one of the programs they're known for is this real estate program. When I was there, A, I had no idea it existed, and B, even if I did, you couldn't pay me all the tea in China to ever sit in one of those classes.
If you had to describe the energy of the Boston retail market right now in 3 words, what would they be?
3 words to describe the energy level right now in the Boston retail market would be exciting, decisive, and overwhelming.
When a national brand looks at Boston from a spreadsheet from another state, what is the one crucial thing that they miss out on that only a local would know?
If looking at Boston from the outside in, it's tricky to understand how the neighborhoods work. To really get a grasp of how Boston retail works, you really need to see it to understand it, both from a street standpoint as well as in the suburbs, where things don't necessarily play like they do in other parts of the country, given tricky access, limited land, things of that nature.
What is the most exciting neighborhood or submarket in your city right now that nobody was talking about 5 years ago?
The most exciting neighborhood in the city right now has got to be the Seaport. 5 years ago, the neighborhood was just starting to come out of the ground. The developers down there have done a fantastic job of turning vacant, desolate parking lots into a vibrant, exploding community with fantastic retail, food, restaurants, entertainment, office, the whole 9 yards. And the neighborhood is absolutely exploding and full of life.
There are hundreds of brokers with licenses in Boston. When a brand or landlord hires your team specifically, what is the unfair advantage they are getting?
When a brand or a landlord hires SRS Boston, the unfair advantage that they're getting is, quite frankly, a great team. We work collaboratively on everything we do. We've got people who've been in the business for 25, 30 years plus. We also have a handful of younger brokers who've only been in the business for a couple of years. And with that, you get all sorts of different perspectives. And between that and the fact that we're putting every client, whether it's a landlord, tenant, what have you, first and making them feel as if they're our only client.
Tell me about your philosophy on saying no. Why is a broker who is willing to tell a client to walk away from a bad deal more valuable than a broker who just wants to close?
The value in saying no is quite simple, really. It tells your client that you're looking after their best interest and that you're looking at the relationship you have with that client as a long-term commitment, and not that the broker isn't just after a specific deal. When you put yourself in a position that you're willing to tell your client, if it were my money, I wouldn't do this because X, it carries a lot of weight, and it certainly helps establish your opinion as something that they need to take seriously.
Are you a data nerd, a street level hustler, or a diplomat? How would your clients describe your negotiation style?
How would clients categorize my negotiation style? Probably first and foremost, diplomat. So many in our business, I'd like to think of myself as a people person, but that's really one of the strengths that I bring to a deal, is that I'm able to see things from different perspectives and help facilitate and coach, if you will, both sides of the equation as to why they need to do X, Y, or Z in order to get a deal done. And I think that's generally where I add the most value. I'm not a data nerd.
We did so much data work at Retail Union for people, and we put 100-page deck together for Travis Matthew.
Oof.
I'm sitting there as we're presenting it, and I'm like, don't you just care where Lululemon is?
Just boil it down to the basic facts. What are the sales? Who's in the market? Who's coming to the market? Who's leaving?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put in the index.
exactly.
So finding a space is easy. Finding the right space is hard. How do you protect a brand from making $1 million mistake in a new market?
The right opportunity may not be available today. And I appreciate, understand, and am excited about your desire to get into a particular market in the moment. But you have to be patient, especially in a market as tight as ours here in Greater Boston. The worst thing you can do is be impatient. It's so vital, especially for brands that don't have dozens of stores in a market. Younger brands or those who are just coming into the market for the first time, they can't afford to make a mistake. We tell them, wait 6 months, wait a year if you need to, but don't rush into something just because there's an opportunity available today. They appreciate that in most cases, and it also helps establish a stronger bond between the broker and the client.
You've had a lot of clients who they've been with you for years. What do you attribute your ability to keep clients for decades that you've worked with over and over again?
The reason I'm able to hold on to clients for 5, 10, 15, 20 years plus in some instances is, quite frankly, I think they trust me. But with time and with deals, you build that trust and you build that relationship. And like so many brokers, I look at my clients, especially the ones that I've had for an extended period of time, as more than just a client. They become friends. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your friends. And the more you know somebody, the more you like and enjoy being with someone, the harder you want to work for them. The client sees that, and that trust and that friendship just builds a long-term working relationship. And hopefully, knock on wood, with most of them, it's turned out pretty well.
If a head of real estate or a major institutional landlord is watching this right now and considering making a move in your market, what is your message to them?
My message to them would be quite simple. Spend a few minutes with me. Let's make sure that we can get together, talk, and I can explain not only what our track record as an organization looks like, but I can also show them what it is that we do and how we do it, which candidly might be a little bit different than some other folks in the market. And we've got some pretty neat technological tools at our disposal that I think separate us from the rest of the pack. I'd like to think that I'm not going to walk into a pitch that I'm not going to win. I'm very fortunate in that respect. And it's because I'd like to think that the heads of real estate and the people that are making decisions like me and trust what I'm saying and like the services that I can provide along with my team. Some of the advantages of the technologies that we're using at SRS that help differentiate us from our competitors are pretty black and white. We've got a mapping system that we use on a regular basis that has all sorts of overlays to it, where you can use the map as a central dumping point for information. The map then feeds back into a database in real time that we can share with our client. They can access it. They can make changes to it. And the changes in the database are then reflected back in this map. So not only do you have all the facts and all the information in a spreadsheet format that's easy to read, you also have the graphic. As the old saying goes, a picture can tell 1,000 words. So we're able to incorporate both the data and the mapping and the pictures and everything else that people need to make a decision into one place that's actually very easy to use. Candidly, a lot of the retailers that we work with, and landlords too for that matter, rely on it and have incorporated it into their systems beyond the areas in which we're actually doing their brokerage.
Is that an SRS proprietary? Did you all build it internally?
The mapping software, yes, it's through Esri. It's our proprietary design, what have you.
Yeah.
And then the basis of the spreadsheet is a platform called Airtable. Absolutely phenomenal. It's game changing.
as your profile on Brandmarch starts to become a little bit more of a dashboard, some of those little things might be inspiration for us to see how you do that. I'd love to take a look at it.
Yeah, happy to anytime.
Why do you still love doing this after 20 plus years in the business?
Why do I still love doing this after so long? It's just fun. We're not in an office every day, which is great. We get to participate in places that people like to go, touch, see, shop, eat. All these things impact our daily lives. It's not a bunch of wonky stuff that only certain segments of the population care about. When it's all said and done, you do a deal, a lease gets signed, something gets built, and you turn around, you look back, and you're like, I did that. That's pretty cool. You got something to show for your efforts rather than just pushing some paper, moving it onto somebody else's desk, and having it all be done. And that adds an element of excitement to what we do, keeps me motivated every day.